Hey everybody, welcome to the Moonstone Witchery podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about spirituality and witchcraft in a modern context. I'm Rian Lockhart. I'm founder and head witch of Moonstone Witchery, and I'm really excited to begin and to tell you guys all about witchcraft and to share in this journey with you. My intention with this podcast is to offer a platform for witches and people who are interested in witchcraft and spiritual people and anybody who's just looking for more information to have access to a place on the internet where we can come together and dialogue around topics that pertain to witchcraft. Witchcraft is a really misunderstood and often vilified and demonized practice. It's a very trendy topic right now, but I have found that overall people don't seem to really understand witchcraft and to really know how to access it. So my thought was to create a podcast providing a lot of information to people who are interested in witchcraft and to sort of just create kind of this online podcast platform where we can connect to each other and other witches can sort of find each other as well. So I just thought that that would be pretty exciting. It's something that I myself would like to have, and so why not just create it? So my background is in witchcraft. I maintain a really successful and fun Instagram account about witchcraft. It's Moonstone_Witchery on Instagram. You can follow me there. And but I've been practicing witchcraft, for many, many years, honestly, since I was a child. And that's an interesting thing that we'll chat about in a little bit. But what you'll find the more you dive into witchcraft as a practice and the more that you start to understand what it means to be a witch, the more you'll see that you've actually probably been practicing witchcraft your whole life and you just didn't realize it because you didn't have that language around it, and because the term witchcraft is got all this weird negative connotation to it. But we've all been practicing. If you're on this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're called to understand witchcraft more, if it's something that's piqued your interest, there's a reason for that. And I think that you'll find as you dig into your own history that all of that stuff amounts to, I've been practicing, I've been doing it like my whole life, as it turns out, and I just didn't have that language. So I've been practicing witchcraft for my whole life, as I just said, but really with intentionality for, the past 7 or 8 years, maybe more than that. I've studied a ton of different paths. I've been mentored by many different witches, many different modalities, many different types of witches, and I've learned along the way. So I consider myself to be what's called an eclectic witch. An eclectic witch is somebody who brings together a lot of different teachings, a lot of different belief systems, a lot of different practices into one. She doesn't necessarily follow a specific pathway. She doesn't necessarily follow a specific hierarchy or a specific way of being a witch. She has pulled together the things that work for her and she has made it her own practice. And that is how I like to practice my witchcraft. And we'll talk more about that. But other things that pertain to my background as to why I'm doing this podcast and why I have the Instagram account and where I am in the spiritual world and what my work centers on, that might be important for you to know is I am a ordained interfaith minister, interdenominational minister, either word works. What that means is that I have studied, I went to divinity school to learn about all the major world religions, and I was ordained. It was a intensive program, lasted 2 years. And so I am, a reverend, which means that I am a practicer of all kinds of religious beliefs. I'm kind of an eclectic spiritual person as well. I've pulled together what I believe and what works for me. And I am able to perform religious ceremonies of all kinds, weddings, funerals, baby blessings, home blessings, things of that nature. And lastly, in the foundation of my work, is that I am a professional psychic intuitive medium. I do readings. I can communicate with loved ones who have passed away. I've been speaking to the other side my entire waking life. As long as I've been conscious, I've been aware of the angels and the guides around us. I've been able to see the angels and the guides around others. I can see people's energy, feel their energy, read their energy, connect to the divine around all of us and the higher self within all of us as well. So my life has always been all about spirituality, all about magic, all about the metaphysical side of things, the spiritual side of things. That's where my home is. That's where I've always done all my work. And that's where I come from. That's the perspective I bring to all of my work. And it has all led me to becoming a practicing witch, and to really focusing on witchcraft and the magic that we inherently and innately have within us as just human beings. So that's the perspective that I come from on this podcast and in all the things that I do, all the things I teach about, speak about, and write about. I'm very passionate about spirituality in general, and the component that witchcraft brings to it just enhances it. So you can find me on a lot of different media. You can find me on Instagram, like I said, at Moonstone_Witchery. You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Moonstone Witch3. I will put that in a comment section somewhere. I don't really know exactly off the top of my head how I spelled it. I'm working on getting more active on Twitter. I'm on YouTube at Moonstone Witchery as well, where I do a series of instructional videos on the how-to components for witch work, spell work, things like that. We talk about spirituality. We'll talk about card readings. We'll talk about a lot of different things over on YouTube. It's got that visual component if that's a thing that you prefer. And so those are the major ways that you can find me right now. And I have a website, moonstonewitchery.com, so please feel free to look me up over there. I've got a shop going with some enchanted jewelry, and there will be other things coming soon, candles that are spelled and all kinds of fun things. So keep your eyes open. You can book a session with me if you would like an intuitive reading over on the website. But enough about all of that. What I wanted to talk about in this first episode is just really simple, but this is a question that I get asked so much on my Instagram page, and it's where I think it makes the most logical sense to start. So why not start here? The question is, well, what is a witch? And the second part of that question is, how do I know if I am a witch? So this is interesting. What is a witch? Well, in our current modern culture, witchcraft has really become revived. I don't think it's coincidental that witchcraft has become revived, given the current political climate that we're in, given the current socioeconomic climate that we're in, given the fact that, we are shifting a lot in our culture and towards being more inclusive, more open, more, neutral in terms of not being so exclusionary and hierarchical in our society. Our society in general seems to be switching to being just much more compassionate, open, kind, understanding. My bias is always towards inclusivity. You are not going to find me being exclusionary on this podcast. I don't believe in hierarchies. I don't think that anyone's more important than anyone else. This is a, very friendly, open-minded podcast. I'm LGBTQ friendly. I'm a member of the LGBTQ community myself. So if you're looking for something else, keep it moving. But otherwise, welcome. Please sit down and join me. So our culture is moving towards being more open-minded, in my opinion, and being more inclusive. It's a struggle. It's a battle. And it's uphill. And my brand of spirituality has me thinking a lot about, well, why is it a struggle? Why is it a battle? Why is it uphill? And a lot of that's because we are physically incarnated in this world in order to shape it, in order to help grow it, in order to build it. It's as if this reality is kind of the rough stone, and we are the sculptors, and we have the hammer and the chisel, and we're seeing what we can pull out of that rough stone. We're seeing what we can create. And when we do that, we can create a society that's beautiful. We have the ability to create a society that is non-oppressive and not harmful and not built on the backs of others, but instead is equilateral and kind and compassionate and has room for everybody. And so what does this have to do with witchcraft? Well, witchcraft says the power to create reality lies within the individual. That's what witchcraft fundamentally is. Witchcraft fundamentally says you are the person who is creating your life, and you are powerful enough to create your life. And we don't mean that in just some obscure way that doesn't have context. We mean that in a physical, literal, tangible way. You can manifest and create whatever life you want for yourself, and you can shape the reality around you, and you are able to manifest the world that you want to live in. And witchcraft says you are that powerful person, and that power lies in your hands, and you are a channel for it. Major religion tells us that all the power to talk to spirit, or what some people call God, that all that power is up within the person standing at the front of a church or a temple of some kind, and that person, typically a man, is somehow more special, more important, more in touch, more connected to the divine than those of us in the congregation are. And that's what religion wants us to believe. Religion wants us to believe that the power is manifested in the person in the front of the church. And witchcraft says, oh, honey, nope, that's wrong. Witchcraft says all that power is right within your own hands. It's right within you. You have it. You can create it. You can be the one who's talking to your idea of God, whoever that is, or your idea of the gods, whoever they are, or your idea of spirit, or your higher self, or nature, or the energy of all things. See, witchcraft doesn't say there's one right way to do it, and there's one person to talk to, and there's one entity, and you have to play by their rules. Witchcraft says, what do you believe, and how do you want to channel your own energy to connect to the source of all that is around you? Being a witch simply acknowledges that there is an innate energy field that we are all in and that we are all interacting with. And being a witch acknowledges that energy field and says, okay, I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to be respectful of it. That's a really important part. And I'm going to interact with it. I'm going to intentionally and consciously and purposefully interact with the energy field around me at all times. And I'm going to ask of it that it works with me, and I'm going to in turn work with it. That's what being a witch is. Being a witch is acknowledging that all things have an innateness to them. Perhaps an innate consciousness, perhaps an innate energy, perhaps just their own innate individuality. And yet, despite this innateness, we are all still interconnected as one. It's both things. It's the paradox of being all one, all the same, and also the paradox of being manifested differently as individual, unique beings and entities. Even the things that seem perhaps as if they are intangible or not alive in some capacity or without consciousness, those things have an innate energy too. But especially the plants, the trees, the rocks, the crystals, the animals, the other people all around us. Witchcraft honors and sees the energy, the innate, unique energy within each of us, and it acknowledges it and respectfully works with it. And it invites that energy to work back with itself. So me as a witch, I am acknowledging all the energy around me, and I'm saying, hey, energy around me, can we shape reality to do this certain thing or to be this certain way? Will you work with me? And the energy responds in kind, yes or no, or perhaps, but I need this to happen, or perhaps, but I need that to happen, or no, the time is not good right now. And a witch knows how to read that energy and how to communicate with it. Now, a witch in modern society is an interesting thing because the word witch has been really laden with a lot of heaviness and a lot of harshness. There's a whole bunch of misunderstandings around the word witch. There's a lot of misconceptions about witchcraft, and we're going to talk about that in my third episode. But the fundamental truth is that witchcraft is simply a word for somebody who can interact with the energy around her at all times. And now you'll notice something on this podcast, and what you're going to notice is that I'm using the word she and her as my default pronoun. I won't say he or him. I would like to move more into they or them, but I am using she and her with intentionality and purpose, and it's because we live in a patriarchal society in which the default gender for everything is male or masculine, and I prefer to shift that to being neutral or female or feminine. I do not believe that witchcraft must belong only to people who are anatomically women. I find that offensive and wrong. I don't believe that witchcraft can only belong to people who identify as women. Witchcraft belongs to everybody. The word witch is a gender-neutral term. We don't need to say male witch. We don't need to say wizard. We don't need to say warlock. Everybody can claim and own the word witch. A witch is a powerful being. She knows who she is. She knows her power. She knows how to access the energy of the universe. And she does so with intentionality, with purpose, and in her empowerment and in her sovereignty. And anybody can be a witch. And I think it's very important to know that, to own it, and to live from that place. The word warlock has some historically negative connotations. The etymology of it, the background to that word is based in a person who has broken their bond or has broken their word to somebody else. And they are not a honorable or trustworthy individual. So when I get messages from people who identify as male asking me if they can call themselves a witch, I say, yes, we would love to have you call yourself a witch, please do. But if you're uncomfortable with it, you may say male witch or wizard until you get more comfortable with it. But I'd encourage you not to use the word warlock just simply because of the meaning behind it. I'd like people to be as educated as they can about whatever terms they're using. So that's my stance on that. I would rather have a male identifying person choose a word that works for them than not practice at all. But if I was in an ideal world, I would allow for the word witch to be gender neutral. I mean, in a perfect world, in my opinion, all words are gender neutral, but we're not there yet. So how do I know if I'm a witch is a question that I get asked a lot. So now we've kind of talked about what is a witch. How do I know if I am one? Well, I'll tell you a secret. If you're on this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a witch. If you've Googled, how to perform a love spell, you're a witch. If you have taken an interest in tarot cards or spirit guides or chakras or wanting to know about spirituality or how to manifest your own reality or how to create the life that you want, if you've been interested in magic or meditation, aligning with your higher self, your past lives, those are all indications that you're a witch. Witches are people who are in this world, but very aware that they're not necessarily of this world. Witches are people who have this innate interest in what's going on, what's the bigger picture. When I was little, I would always marvel over the fact that we were all here, but no one was talking about it. No one was unable to sit down without saying what are we here for, though? How did we get here? Why are we alive? Why do we exist on this plane? What is this planet? Does it mean to be human? Why do we exist? I couldn't comprehend that people weren't talking about those things more. I didn't understand. How was everybody going about their lives without saying, but what are we even doing here? See, those questions have propelled me forward my whole life. Those questions have kept me up at night, literally, since I was a child. Those questions have been the basis of so many of my journal entries, my conversations with people. It's why I became ordained. It's why I studied philosophy. It's why I do the psychic readings I do. It's why I teach spirituality, because I can't stop wondering about that. And I mean, while I've received a lot of answers from my guides over the years, my fascination with the fact that we're here in this simulation called reality, and that we're all in it together, and that we're all doing this together, hasn't ceased. I've continued to remain fascinated by that. And that's one reason I know I'm a witch. But to take it a step farther, how do I know if I'm a witch? Well, my fascination, if you have had any thoughts about anything like that over the course of your lifetime, you consider yourself a witch. But then it's also like the curiosity that drives you forward, right? That makes you want to sort of poke at those questions and to poke at reality and to dive into it and be like, well, how does it work? What can we do? What's happening here? Why does a certain rock feel a certain way? Or why does a tree make me feel like this? Or how come I'll have a dream and then it'll come true? Or why do I just know certain things? These are the ways we know that we are witches. The weird stuff we feel. If you're an empath, we'll talk about being an empath in a later episode. If you are curious as to how divination works, if you have a pendulum or tarot cards, or you like to do readings in water or with candles or fire or mirrors or whatever it is, if you like to carry crystals, these are the ways that we know that we're a witch. I made a post once that was very affirming for people, and it said, how do you know if you're a witch? If you're asking yourself that question, that's how you know. Just the mere fact that you wonder, could I be a witch, is enough. Now, there's some witches out there that are real hierarchical, and they really believe that you have to have a lineage or you must have ancestry that is in the witchcraft realm. Otherwise, it, quote, doesn't count to them. I don't agree with that. I think that's a bias that is inaccurate. Not all of us know our lineage. Not all of us know our ancestry. Not all of us have the privilege of that awareness of where we come from. But I will say that all of us have an innate connection to the universe. All of us have a connection to spirit. All of us are connected. And all of us, therefore, have the ability to access the inner witch within us. If you're asking those questions, if you're interested in the topic, that's the witch inside of you who is speaking to you. She's saying, go forth and look into this. Go forward and study this. Like, oh, look, pay attention to that. The fact that you notice what you notice, the fact that you think about what you think about, the fact that you're interested in what you're interested in, that's how you know you're a witch. The only thing you have to do is believe yourself and allow yourself to move forward with it. You can quietly claim the word witch to yourself. You don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to announce it to the world. You don't have to say, oh, turns out I'm a witch. Just know it within yourself and see how that feels. Secretly begin to learn more about it. Just allow it to be true for yourself until you feel more comfortable claiming it and talking about it with others. But just step your toe into it a little bit and see how it feels. So I think that's where we're going to leave off for this first episode. My intention with these podcasts is to make them short enough that they are digestible. We're going to talk a lot about big topics on this podcast, and I want you to be able to sit with the information, to digest it, to turn it around in your mind, and then to dive into the next one when you're ready. There's so much to cover. There's so much to talk about. It's all really exciting and interesting. It's not always going to be just me. I will sometimes bring other people onto the podcast, but I'm not doing an interview-only basis for this podcast. My intention is to share information and to just kind of dig into it here as much as I can. But when it's pertinent or when it's helpful to bring someone else on, I absolutely am going to. In our next episode, We're going to talk about where you can begin with learning more about witchcraft, how you can start to practice on your own, and what kind of the difference between being Wiccan and just being a witch is, what the different kinds of witches are, eclectic, traditional, green witches, etc. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of witches, and we'll talk about those differences as well, and where you can begin and what some resources are. So I'm really grateful to you for listening. This has been my first episode of the Moonstone Witchery podcast, where we talk about witchcraft and spirituality in a modern context. I'm Rian Lockard. I'm the founder and head witch of Moonstone Witchery, and I am so grateful to you for listening, and I hope that you subscribe and continue listening to the podcast and share it with your fellow witchy friends. Thank you.